have our awesome team, so I'm going to introduce everybody. This is Kaylee Bryden, and Ingrid Baum, Daniel Johnson, Scott Borchert, Doretha Juarez, and Janet Savolas just ran off to grab something for us, so she will be back. But as always, we're so happy to have you guys here. Thank you for taking time out of your morning to join us. And this is our first one of the spring semester, so we will be having another one. I can't remember the date now, in the mid-semester, but we'll let you know, of course, to advertise that for you. So this is our Moving Up and Moving On presentation, and as you saw in the email and the descriptor for today's presentation, we're going to be talking about progressing to the next level, different tips and kind of a little gauge of a timeline for the grade levels here, because this is open to all grade levels. So we're going to touch on different things that each grade level needs to be worried about, or just have in mind, not worried, but be anticipating, and take you through some of the things that are happening this spring, such as course requests and different things like that. And also, we always want to, add to that the importance of balance, and how we can all help each other as a team, you guys at home, us at school, to make sure your students feel confident going into their second semester and that they have all the tools that they need. So without further ado, Mrs. Bright. Oh, actually, I want to do one little quick blurb. We do have some flyers here. So we have our college tour going on. You guys have probably seen advertisements about that Pacific Northwest tour. Sign-ups are being taken until the 28th. So we are slowly running out of time for that. So if you're interested, there's a flyer over here. You can also ask us questions. We're also doing another parent workshop. Okay, so an email will be going out about that shortly. That's going to be next week on January 29th. It's open to middle school and high school parents. And it's on recognizing and supporting learning difficulties in your teen. So if you'd like to grab a flyer to learn more about that, that will be next week. Okay, so now without further ado, Mrs. Bright.
Hi everyone, how are we doing today? Good, okay. So we're going to start off talking about course requests, because we know that this is a big topic in the household, right? With your students, is choosing what courses to take next year, and if a student wants to take on more rigor with APs or honors courses, trying to discuss balance and trying to manage sports and clubs, and selecting what classes your students are going to be in is a big part of even the college process, right? Because schools are looking at the choices that your students are making when it comes to class selection. So we are going to be visiting your students in their classes, every grade level, to talk about the whole course selection process. But we're also going to be meeting with your students one-on-one to discuss the best choices for them, because every student is different, right? We don't have a cookie-cutter selection of classes that every student takes. It's really based on their capabilities, their interests, and that's really what we want to stress. So we do have a tentative date that kids can select their courses by, but that's subject to change, and we will definitely be updating you on that. But what's really important is that students shouldn't be choosing courses based off of what classes their friends take, which is a really common desire for students. It really needs to be the classes that they're inspired by, they're interested in, and the most rigor that they can handle. So when we speak with college reps, and what we know about college is that they want to see that your students are challenging themselves year after year and increasing in their rigor, but not taking on so much that they can't handle it, right? So that's a really fine line, and it's a tough balance. So the best resource in the course selection process would be your student, and also your student's current teachers. So if they're considering taking on more rigorous classes and aren't sure if they're ready for it, have them talk to their current teacher. They're the ones who know the curriculum. They know your student's current level of success with the course load. So really, I encourage your students to reach out to them. You can reach out to them, and then we're also involved in the process as well. Okay? And it's really important that you guys are a part of your students' process, because a lot of the times the students will, like I said, try to pick classes based on their friends, or classes that they hear are one thing or another. And I just want you guys to be having really honest conversations at home about what your student's capable of, and what will work for the whole family. Okay, so this comes up a lot in our office. So a great process that we have is the appeal process. Now, every course and every department sets prerequisites for a specific subject, and these are to ensure that a student can be successful in the next level. So we don't want students taking on honors in AP if they're not successful in the current class that they're in, and that's why prerequisites exist. Now, let's say that a student gets really close to the prerequisite, but not quite there, and they still think that they want to challenge themselves the next year. They can appeal to the department for a shot at an honors or AP level. And the student gets to write out a reason for why they think that they deserve that spot in honors and AP, and then the department gets to discuss if that student is ready, and then appeals are granted. I'll give you an example. So let's say that a freshman takes college prep level English, and they get a 90% in the class. Now, our prerequisite at this time is 92 or above to move on to honors American Lit. So that student, it could have been that they were shy in assignment or whatnot, but they're ready to take on honors. They can write an appeal, and oftentimes when a student is very close, like within a couple percentage, the department will talk about it and grant them that ability to move on. So the appeal process is a great process for students who are ready to challenge themselves and maybe just were off the mark a little bit.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
Sometimes the department will also say that in this current semester, in the spring, they expect them to get the 92 as part of the condition. Just so you have that in mind, so they're improving in the second semester. That might be a criteria that the department insists on.
Right, so technically, if a student makes the prerequisite, so if that student had already earned a 93% in that English class, they need to maintain a 92% or better in the spring semester to still be eligible. So we want the students to be prepared the entire year to ensure their success at the next level. Okay, so if you have any specific questions about prerequisites, I'm going to show you that there is a course guide for you to look through. It has all of that spelled out. But we explain this in the classrooms to your students. We go through the process and the appeals process with your students as well, and that will happen when we visit classrooms and one-on-one. Okay, and if you have questions, we can answer them at the end as well. Okay. Oh, by the way, sorry to go back. If your student doesn't meet the prerequisite in the spring semester, unfortunately there's no appeal process at that time, okay, because we have to hire and create classes based off of enrollment, so it's only for the fall semester. Okay, and like I said, there is a course description guide on the website. I encourage families and students to really look through this and use it as a research tool. A lot of our kids just base classes off the title, and they don't actually read the descriptions, and the teachers write, the departments write really awesome descriptions giving you some great insight on what the classes entail, especially when your students are choosing electives. A lot of them will just kind of choose electives off the cuff, but there's some great electives that they might pass up because they're not reading the course description guide. So it's available on our website, and I encourage you to look over them with your student. We can always send you a link if you want to email us. But pay attention to new course offerings. Every year, teachers get to actually propose new courses based on interest, and it's really great to see new electives pop up. I think this year we have diving into mythology and folklore. Like, that's a new elective for students, so keep an eye out. Okay, this comes up a lot. So AP classes. We obviously want to encourage students to take on AP classes. We have a limit here at Chaminade where a student can take up to 9 AP classes in their entire academic experience. It's important for you to understand that colleges are aware of our limits. So when students are applying to college, we send along what's called a school profile, which is available online as well that you can see. But it spells out all of our limitations. Limits per year, how many APs each student's allowed to take in an individual year. So colleges are aware. Like, if your student is only taking 2 AP classes their sophomore year, they know that that is all they are allowed to do. Okay, and that comes up a lot in conversations with families. So in 9th grade, we don't allow AP courses. It's a part of the reason why we are trying to instill balance and giving kids a shot at getting used to the curriculum, getting used to high school. In 10th grade, students can take up to 2 AP level courses. One of those is AP World History, and then there's another spot open for, I believe the ones that are available at this time to 10th graders are AP Computer Science, AP Human Geography, and then our Capstone program, which I'll mention in a moment. So in 11th grade, a student can take up to 4 AP courses. Now that's dependent on how many courses they've taken in 10th grade. So we limit the amount of AP courses a student can take in their 10th and 11th grade year to 5 total. So if a student takes 1 their sophomore year, they can take up to 4 their junior year. If a student takes 2 their sophomore year, they can take 3. We're really trying to protect the student from overcommitting. 4 APs is a lot. It's very heavy. We've seen kids do it. This is a really big discussion on balance and mental health and wellness because that's a lot to take on. All we ask is that a student is slowly increasing in rigor, showing colleges that they are taking on challenge but able to handle it. So that's the number one piece. In their 12th grade year, they can take up to 4 AP courses as well. Yes.
For the capstone certificate, is it 6 total?
Can somebody speak to that? I think it's the capstone 1 and 2, and then 4 other APs. Yes.
Yeah, so it's 6.
Yes. So our capstone program, and there, by the way, if you have specific questions or want to learn more about the honors or AP process and courses, there's going to be an information session night based specifically on capstone and on honors and AP level in March. Okay, so look out for that meeting. We'll just touch on it a little bit. The capstone program is a 2-year program. It's a 2-year commitment. So if your student chooses to get involved in that program in 10th grade, they are committed to 10th and 11th grade being an AP seminar and AP research. They build on one another. And then they can choose to get involved in it in 11th and 12th grade. This is a rigorous course that is going to kind of mimic college level research and writing. It's great preparation for college. It's for a student who's very self-driven, self-motivated, loves research, loves writing. It's a pretty challenging course, but it's a great program. So if you're interested in that, definitely go to the information session in March. And then lastly for my piece, if you are concerned about your students tracking, so if your student's on track to graduate, just rest assured each counselor has a form for every student that goes through a checklist that your student is hitting all the marks for graduation. So we're constantly making sure that your student is on track. When we meet with your students, we use our 4-year plan worksheet that maybe some of you have seen your students bring home to you, but we can map out what hypothetically they want to take year after year. We give that to them. And I just want you to be aware that if your student has questions in any of the course selection process, like when we're coming into classrooms or not, please send them to us. Like they should sign up to see us so that they're not sitting there with their questions and not having them answered. So yeah.
That form that
Yes.
you fill out with my child, he brings it home and it gets lost. Do you
Okay.
have one in his file too?
His 4-year plan?
Yeah, like his 4-year plan.
I
Do you
take
have a
notes.
file on the student?
So we have electronic files. So your students are in our system on Naviance, which I'm sure you guys have all heard Naviance at some point. So whenever we meet with your students, we take notes on them, and if we discuss possible course selections, things like that, we definitely write it down.
But you don't have a copy of the 4-year?
We have a copy of this.
Okay.
We have several 4-year plans because honestly, they change every semester for these
Exactly,
students.
and then he forgets what he talked about last time.
Well, but we want to base it off of where he is at the time, right? So he knows what he wants when we see him in that time.
Right.
So This is more tracking if he's on track to graduate. But when it comes to four-year plan, it's kind of brainstorming. It's giving a student the ability to see ahead of where things could go. Like if we know that a student wants to take sports medicine their senior year, we know that they have to take anatomy or AP bio. So that's a conversation we're having as sophomores to make sure they're lined up for their senior year. So it's all kind of hypothetical, throw it out there.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. All right, I'm gonna hand it off to Mr. Borchard.
All right, so I apologize for my voice, it's a little raspy. So the one thing I wanted to first start talking about is testing. All right, and whether a student should be testing now or be waiting, and kind of go through the different years so that you have an understanding of what our suggestions are when it comes to preparing for the SAT and the ACT subject tests, all that fun stuff. Basically for the freshmen, we don't recommend that they start doing prep. All right, we are always concerned about burnout. All right, and there are some programs out there that people will start as freshmen and they're going every Saturday from freshman year, doing practice tests, all of this stuff, and it really burns them out. What you have to remember is these tests are testing on material that they're learning at school, so in the classroom. The math is what they're learning in the math class. So if they're doing test prep when they're a freshman, they're prepping about information that they haven't even learned yet. So it's better for them to really be focusing on what they're learning in the classroom, because ultimately when it comes to college, colleges are going to look at their grades and weigh those a little bit more heavy than they are in the test prep. So for freshmen, we don't recommend they do any kind of test prep or anything like that. When they hit sophomore year, if you have some students that are already maybe as a freshman taking Algebra 2 or something like that, they might be a little bit more advanced in the math areas or whatnot, it's okay for them to start doing some test prep, and I would say light test prep, maybe using Khan Academy or Schmoop that is paid for, that is all free. There's awesome apps that you can get on the phone where they get like an SAT question of the day or like a word of the day, so it helps start getting them thinking along those lines. But we would want to make sure that if they're doing prep, it's something that they're interested in. We wouldn't suggest that you're forcing them to do this heavy-duty test prep as a sophomore. The other part of it is if you're paying for outside test prep, that can be really expensive, right? And if it's not necessarily going to benefit them too much at this time, you might want to hold off until it gets to a little bit better time in their career where it could help them. All right, so sophomores, as long as they're motivated to do it, that's fine. They can start doing some light test prep. What they can do is subject tests. Now, if you guys don't know what subject tests are, they're kind of like mini SATs on a particular subject. They take about an hour and a half to do, and it's a way for students to really show their knowledge and expertise in a certain subject. So there's like math subject tests, there's world history. So as sophomores, a lot of students will take AP World, right? They're not going to know anything. That's probably the highest level class that they're going to take for a long time in world history. So that's a perfect time for them to go and maybe take the subject test in world history. All right, so they could do that in the June test date after they've taken their AP test and they've learned all that material. All right, we have some students that excel in chemistry, and maybe they're taking honors chemistry. We have students that have been successful taking the chemistry subject test after taking honors chemistry. Again, that might be a conversation you want to have with the counselor. If they're doing extremely well, okay, they can try it. If they got like an 82% in honors chemistry, we probably wouldn't suggest that they're doing the subject test at that time. We would suggest, hey, wait until you do AP chemistry, you get a little bit more knowledge in that area, you can take it. All right, so again, it depends on what classes they're going to take. It can be very different per each student. We have juniors. So once they get through sophomore year, by then, when they hit junior year, they're going to have taken 2 practice tests. They'll have taken the PSAT as a 9th grader, the practice ACT as a 10th grader, and they'll be preparing to take the PSAT again as a junior. All right, so that's kind of the year that we would really encourage you to start thinking about doing all this test prep, starting on that process. When we meet with our juniors in the fall, we kind of develop a whole testing plan for them. All right, have you started any test prep? If not, no worries, you have plenty of time. This is when we suggest that you take it, so it's usually around March. They're still learning information that first semester junior year that can be tested on in those tests, so we want them to get through that material before they're taking those tests. And we want to make sure that at this point that they are registered. We want them to take at least one or maybe both of them once to kind of see and make sure that they know which one they're going to test better on. So that way they have the summer to prep for that, and then in the fall of senior year can finish up their testing. All right, so at this point they really should be registered. If you're waiting until the last minute, the risk you run is sometimes we have students that have to drive down to Long Beach to take the test because all the testing sites around here are filled up. So you want to plan ahead so that way you can figure out your prep as well. If you have questions about that, always come up and talk to us. But again, SHMOOP and Khan Academy, there's information here about SHMOOP. That's all free online test prep that's individualized to that student, so it's extremely helpful. Okay, the other thing that we do is we run 2 different test prep courses now. All right, so we have one that is designed to help students with their March 14th test date. So it's designed that when they start, they're going to get through all the material and they're going to be prepared for that March 14th test date. All right, the other one would be session 2, which is shooting for that June test date. Again, that's ran through Chaminade. I don't remember what the price is off the top of my head, but if you go to the Center of Excellence, all that information will be up there. Yes? It's $300. Okay, thank you. Which, if you were to take it anywhere else, would be a lot more.
I have a question about the subject tests. Like, my son was a sophomore last year, and
Yes.
he took world history, he did the AP test and did well, but the subject test, he didn't take that.
So the difference between those two, the AP test is for deciding whether or not they're going to get college credit when they go off to college.
Right.
The AP score is not going to be used when it comes to acceptances, whereas the subject test will be used when schools are considering acceptance to certain schools.
So is it worth it for him to take that subject test now, even though because now he's in A push?
That would be a conversation we'd want to have, and if he retains all that information.
Yeah.
There is a U.S. history one, so he could take the U.S. history one after junior year if that's something he feels more comfortable with.
And is that around the same time as the AP test?
It's always the exact same. Oh, they only occur on the SAT test dates. So you can't do like a regular test date and the subject test. So there would be one on the March one, there's one in May, and then there's also one on that June 6th date. Those are when those subject tests.
SAT and the subject on the same day?
No.
Oh, you have to scatter it?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the AP exams will be here. The SATs will be at those testing locations, and the subject tests are on those same days. So you have to pick or choose which one you want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe I missed it, but when do you register for this test? Can
For
we
the
register
SAT,
now?
you can register now.
I thought
Absolutely.
it opened a certain date or not?
For you mean the prep courses?
No, for
The
the
real
test.
test.
The real test, you can register in the fall if you wanted for spring dates.
Let's say if having my ticket in March. Would I can
I don't know, I don't remember what the deadline is, but if you go to like College Board,
Okay.
it'll have all like registration dates, when is late registration, when you can't register anymore, things like that. But all of that is up and you can sign up now.
These are prep courses then?
These are the prep courses,
Okay.
yes.
And they're offered here?
Yeah, these are ones that are offered here. Okay. So it's a great opportunity for our students to take advantage of. So the other part I want to talk about is, okay, so we've talked about choosing their courses, preparing them each year to challenge themselves a little bit. We've talked about kind of planning for that, for the testing, making sure that they have those test dates in mind. If you guys have questions, again, talk to us and we can kind of work through that. The other part of it is now kind of getting some more exposure to colleges. And you hear us talk about this all the time, that it's really important to get on those college campuses. So we're in the spring right now, we have spring break coming up, and the nice thing about when our spring break is versus when the colleges are, they're not the same time. All right, so it's an opportunity, if you guys have the ability to maybe start taking your kids to some of these colleges, walking around, getting that exposure. We talk about all the time, like when you walk on a college campus, you automatically get a feel if it's something that's gonna fit for you, you're gonna be happy there. I mean, even when you guys go on those college campuses, you're probably gonna get a feel. Could be different than your son or daughter's, right? I still get that feeling, no, I'm not going back to college, I'm good, right? I've done my time there, I don't need to go back. But I still get a feeling like, oh, I could have gone here, like I could see myself here. So we wanna make sure that we encourage that. And that's a great experience for any level. And what we've noticed is sometimes you'll take a kid when they're a freshman, and their view will change by the time they hit junior year. They start realizing some different things about themselves and what they really value, and so sometimes that view can change. And we're in a nice location where you can go and you can see a lot of different schools. So, you know, we will be, I'm going to talk about some of the college tours that we're running, even local ones, and that's an opportunity for them to go with their peers and see it. But sometimes it's good for you guys to go with them as well, so you can kind of see through their eyes what jumps out at them.
Just a quick question. I'm struggling with mine as far as motivating him to sort of put his feelers out and see what he might be interested in.
Yeah.
And can you just maybe give a suggestion on how to help them look in places that aren't obvious? Because obviously for him, he wants to stay here
Right.
now, or he thinks. So.
What I would suggest at this point is, one, just to get them on a campus. So just say, we're going to go do this. Today we're going to go and we're going to go visit CSUN. I scheduled a tour for us. I just want you to go around, keep an open mind about it. You know, and get them that exposure like, hey, that's kind of cool that we're on a college campus. Now you like this, you can go talk to your counselor and tell them what those characteristics that you like, and we can kind of broaden their horizons a little bit. Like, hey, have you considered this? Have you considered that? So we kind of really work with you, but I think the first step is just getting them onto the college campus, because a lot of times the students are scared. They're scared of this process. They don't know how to start it. They don't want to start it. So sometimes a little push to be like, all right, we're just going to go walk around. That's all you got to do.
Right.
Sometimes that can help just open the door to that
So if we
conversation.
want to plan a trip maybe for spring vacation.
You could.
Talk to the counselor prior to that, you guys can help us, have him come up with it.
Yeah, so sometimes we'll talk with our students about great questions to ask, what to look for, things like that.
Okay,
Those are all things that we're happy to do with your son or daughter.
great.
All right?
So you might even have them start at a big school versus little school?
Yes.
Do you want them to go to a big public school, or do you guys have little schools that you do a visit in the spring? Like,
So we're going to talk to the local college tours that we do. We purposely do that. We purposely go to a small and a big.
Because of all the colleges, but
Yeah.
if you think of like big versus little, sometimes that helps.
So the other thing is too, a lot of your students are involved in a lot of different activities, a lot of different organizations, which sometimes they hold events on college campuses. So that's an awesome time too. Like, hey, we're there for robotics. Why don't we go walk around the school? Let's see what it looks like besides just where you are for robotics. You know, with athletics, a lot of times you're going to the field or you're going straight to the gym and that's it. Take some detours, drive around a little bit, you know, get that exposure so they can see what the rest of the campus looks like. So in talking about that, we do have college tours that are coming up. So the brochures for the Pacific Northwest, that's an awesome opportunity. We see big schools, small schools, private schools, public schools. It's a great chance to see 10 schools in a very short amount of time, and it gives students that ability to be like, oh, I like this more than I like this, or I want to make sure that whatever school I'm considering is big. You know, I want to walk to campus and run into someone new every day. The other one we're talking about is those local college tours. And we make sure that we're going to a smaller school versus a bigger school. All right, so on March 5th, we have CLU, and then we'd be going out to UCSB. Drastically different schools, but it gives the students the opportunity to really look at the difference and see which one they feel a little bit more comfortable with. We follow that up by then going to USC and LMU. Again, those are both private schools, but one is about 8,000, one is about 30,000. Drastically different. Okay, we'll typically try to eat lunch on those campuses and, you know, kind of give them that exposure to what it's like to be on the campus, but it's an awesome opportunity for them to see something local. All right? And those will be ones that we'll be publicizing when we're doing signups. Usually that fee is $40, $60, somewhere in there. Okay, and I'll pass it on to Ms.
And
Mel.
when do we register for
Yes.
this?
So what we'll have you do is when those open up, we'll be making announcements, and there'll be like a permission slip that we hand the students, and they have to bring that in with the payment, and then
Is
we
there a
put
way
them
that I
on.
can go in, the website and see that, because my son doesn't bring anything?
Yes, we'll be putting it in the CTW as well. We try to make any dates that we have or trips that we have or plans on that CTW. That's a great place to go and get all that information. But I get that, yeah, they don't like to pass things along. All right, Ms. Mel.
We'll send emails too, so don't worry. And then for the summertime, you guys, so colleges love to see that your students are doing something productive, but as we've been talking about all morning, balance is going to be the big one. So the first thing we have on there is family time. We still want them to have time to spend with you, to take vacations with you, to hang out with their friends. You know, those beach days are still important. We want them to have that downtime. But while also thinking about, you know, looking ahead. So So one of the first things we have on there is remediating classes, so that's our summer school. Again, trying to keep them on track for graduation, so any D or an F in a math or language class is going to require remediation before moving on to that next level. So things that, you know, we would have already talked to you guys about, we'll have meetings with you so you'll know going in. But important to keep track of that and make sure that they're all set for their next year and ready to go. Another big thing that they can look into is internships. A lot of times this is really about who you know and kind of talking to friends and colleagues. Sometimes at your own jobs, if you talk to your boss and can get like a great in with someone to have your student intern or follow someone. So if you are lucky enough to be in a field that they're interested in as well, it's a great segue in, but many times about who you know and who you can reach out to. Research opportunities, also very similar. It's a lot of legwork, but the students that do it end up really liking it. I had a couple seniors they're seniors this year, but last year they started looking into research opportunities and really wanted to work with a professor in economics. So they sent out over 100 emails and just went on different universities' websites, found out what teachers were researching what, and just sent out tons of emails. Out of like those 100, they maybe got 15, 16 responses. And then from there started working down and found someone at UCLA that was willing to work with them and do research. So that's what they spent their summer doing and had a great experience, but really had to put the time and the effort in to reach out to these people who were, you know, frequently very busy, but it did pan out and they were super excited and had a great experience. So something for students to start thinking about and just kind of reaching out and looking into. Volunteering. Summer is a great time to volunteer, and this runs the gamut. So this could be anything from a CIT here with us, different little sports camps that are all out there, a hospital. Again, sometimes at your own jobs, there's volunteer opportunities. So this one, really, the sky is the limit with what they can do. Anything that is going to help them in their field. Sometimes they'll, you know, volunteer at a hospital and realize, I really love this and this is what I want to do, and I'm shifting, you know, into more of like medicine. Or the opposite. This is really not what I thought it was going to be, and I'm going to look into something else. So great exposure, great time for them to really have that downtime a little bit and see what they're interested in and find out if it's really for them. Summer programs, there's a ton of summer programs. You will start getting mail for all kinds of camps right around this time of year. Just keep in mind, some of those can get really pricey. There's like a leadership one that's going around right now. A few of our students have shown us it's not going to make or break. If it's something your family is able to do and your student's interested, great, go for it, but don't feel like everything is riding on that. There's a lot of them that are way less expensive, or, you know, more local, so you're not talking about travel or anything like that. So nothing is gonna ride on one program. There's summer programs where they might go, you know, to BU, Boston, for a week or two, and they live on the campus and in the dorms and able to do that program. It could be anything from like a biology thing where they get to work with the professors or in the labs and things like that. Or, you know, USC is a big one with film. They have like a film summer program. So there's lots of things. UCLA does them. There's really a ton of programs out there. Anytime that we hear something, we put it on the student's Blackboard page. So that counseling Blackboard page generally has tons of information and links to the programs that we hear about. So something to keep checking on, because that's, you know, updated all the time. And again, you'll get tons of stuff in the mail, and the kids are getting emails too. So no shortage of information there. The other thing that students can do over the summer is just at our local colleges, take a class. So let's say they're really interested in astronomy. We don't offer an astronomy class. You can go to Pierce, you can go to Moore Park, you can go to CSUN, any of our local schools where they can take a college level course over the summer as well. Yes.
A question about that leadership camp.
Yeah.
They did send us something, of course, and they sent us 4 names of Chaminade students
Yep.
that have attended. and I'm forgetting. How do I reach those people?
So that, actually, we were talking about that yesterday. Some of those students, I believe, are still here, so they would be able to just email them and talk with them to see if they liked it, how they...
There's an online directory of the whole student, I'm forgetting.
For our kids? Yeah, so it's just their last name, so we can help with that, and they're on campus, so that's not,
Okay.
Some of them I know had graduated, though, because we looked at some of those names of their students that are no longer... that are no longer here.
Okay.
But yeah, that's very common, and the two that were on campus, they can reach out to and just kind of chat and see if, you know...
Yeah, because I'd love to see their impression.
Right, is it worth it, is it not worth it? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. All right, so again, so at the local colleges, you can take those courses, and it's great. Gives them an experience of what it's like on a college course and on a college campus, and what it would be like to take a college course. So also possibilities. So over the summer, and again for our 11th graders, just in getting them prepared for next year, fall of senior year is super busy. So anything that they can do ahead of time is very, very helpful. So one of the things we want them to start doing is thinking about their college list. It does not have to be, finalized or complete by any far stretch of the imagination. At this point, we just want them to research and think about it and have like a working list that they have in Naviance. We'll talk about Naviance all the time. That's pretty much like the core of everything we do for senior year and college applications. So they can have their list on there. It could be, any schools they've heard of, that dream school. Naviance has great programs where sometimes they're like, well, I don't even know where to start. There's questionnaires where they'll ask you, do you think you want to stay up on the West Coast, or are you open to the East Coast? Do you want a big school? Do you want a little school? Are sports a really important part of it? Is Greek life an important part for you? So it really kind of goes down and asks them all these questions, and then when they're done answering all of those, it will actually populate a list of all the schools that match your criteria. And if it doesn't match, so let's say it's like, oh, this is only a 70% match, it will tell you why. So maybe you wanted mid-size and the school's a little bit bigger, or Greek life was important, this is not like a big Greek life school. So it really gives them a good starting point. There's also different little questionnaires on there, like doing what you love. This might be a good course of study for you if these are the things you're interested in. So lots of different things they can play around with in there just to kind of get them started. So we'll talk to the kids about their list eventually of, those reach schools where it's those dream schools, and we never are gonna discourage that. You can always have that, one or two dream schools that you've always thought about. We want the bulk of your list to be your target schools. So those are the schools that, GPA-wise and test score-wise you're gonna match. And then safety schools. Schools where you know that your GPA and your test scores are well above. And we also, for parents' sake, want financial safety schools. So we know that, should there not be scholarships or financial aid, this is still possible. And what we tell your students always is, these should all be schools that you'd be happy to attend, right? So a safety school is not really a safety if they're like, I'm gonna put it on there, but I would never wanna go there. So we really will talk to them and help them with that list. But right now, that list could be huge. If they had 20 schools on there, that's totally okay. We will start working with them and paring it down as we get closer. Eventually, our target is 8 to 12 schools, but for now, we want them to research. We just want them to throw as much on there just so they can start looking into it, looking at those websites, and if you're able to do visits and things like that. So it would be awesome. We also have started our junior workshops. So we've already had one, and each one has a different topic where we'll work with them. After school, it's on an X-Walk day, and all the counselors are in there. We'll answer questions. It gives them an opportunity to work on that list.
Sorry, just a quick
No, it's
one on
okay.
this, because I saw it on the calendar, but that maybe because you didn't have the curriculum, it wasn't described what was happening. And when I talked to my son about it, he seemed oblivious about the whole thing. And I said, well, do they not tell you what the workshop is going to be? I imagine you do, but it's not sinking in. Because he had no clue. And then it was just about whether his friends were going. So-
Which is sometimes how they get there, but
Yeah.
once they're there, what we'll normally do is do like a quick little presentation on that subject, so it'll be maybe like 5-10 minutes, and then the rest of the time we let them work, and then we'll walk around and answer questions. So,
But just to that, I would love, I mean, maybe not pretty sure, but if it was even in the newsletter.
Yeah, the
shall not-
CTW,
So the
yeah.
parents know.
Of course.
What's there, so we.
what
get
the
from
subject
behind.
is, yeah.
It is
So,
in the CTW.
the next, it usually
Yeah, it's
is,
in the
right?
It is
Yeah.
in the CTW and the lesson notes too. It's also on their Blackboard page, and the kids get an email too.
It was in the CTW, I looked for it, I
Yeah.
couldn't find it, okay.
There's a lot in the CTW.
It's long,
It can
I know,
definitely-
and we're at the
It's
bottom.
always at the bottom too.
Yeah, counseling is always towards the bottom, yeah.
Just to make you feel better, yes. I had it on my calendar and I kept reminding my son and he still refused to go.
Yeah.
So, it happens.
It's
Yeah.
not a
Even
big
if they
turnout,
know.
too.
Yeah, there's,
Like 35, 40 kids, right?
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one is senior timeline.
When
So
are these meetings?
they are, when was, well, February
During
5th.
block.
No, but what time? Like,
Oh, it's during X block, so we start at 2:15.
so my junior can still go to the February 5th?
Oh, yeah. And the other one, and there's one more. We don't have the date on there yet, but there will be one more. Yeah. All right, so hopefully they will all come to that. One of the things we do to help them with their college list and the whole application is this boot camp that we've been doing for the last few years. And last year, actually, we increased it from 2 days to 3 days, where the students are with us, and this is over the summer. But the counselors are there, we have the English department there, and then the part that we added last year is we actually have college reps come with and are there with us for 1 day as well. So with the counselors, we will talk with them about their list because that pretty much is step one. We can't do deadlines or talk to teachers about letters of recommendation or anything like that until they know where they're applying and what those deadlines are. So we will help them with their list. The other thing we will do is look at the Common App, which is an application that over like 800 schools use, so most of our students will be using that. We'll look at the UC app, and we will also look at the Cal State. So we'll go through all of that with them, answer all their questions. The English teachers are there to help them with their essay or some of their insight questions, kind of help them brainstorm. If they really work on it, they could really have a decent rough draft by the time that this 3-day program is done. And then when the college reps come, they can show that to them, kind of get feedback, and ask their questions as well. Many times these are our own reps, so these are the people that will eventually sit down and be reading their application. So it's super helpful just to get, their feedback, to get that one-on-one FaceTime, and just to have them answer questions. The reps also do a little bit of talking about their own schools as well as different topics, so it's really, really helpful. We're offering 2 different sessions, as you can see with the dates on there, and they've been really well attended and super helpful in the past. And again, just something that gets them ahead of the game, so coming into senior year in the fall, they already feel like, all right, I've started this, I have a good grasp on this, I'm not super stressed, because it's almost like an 8th class at the beginning. There's 7 other classes that are still happening, but we're also working on all of this in that fall semester. So again, anything we can get ahead of or get them to do early is super, super helpful for them, and just stress in general, and for you as well, as you will be dealing with them while they're doing all of this. So these are coming up, and we'll give you tons of information for this too. We'll send emails and let you know, but you can start registering for that on our summer school site.
What's the asterisk for that time?
So so it's going to be on August 1st and 2nd, I believe, is 9 to 3, but then on the 3rd, we're doing an evening
Oh, I
session.
see. I
So
see.
that's a little bit different.
That's a
Third
Monday.
day.
Yeah, it's a Monday.
Okay,
So that's a little different.
I see.
We
From
have
last
to, we
year.
have to do it after certain hours during the work week. So
Okay.
that's how
Because
we-
we're already here for
30
meetings.
days
Yeah.
in the evening.
And this is the summer between junior and senior year?
Yes, so it's for our rising seniors.
And then on the REACH target
Yeah.
safety, is there data available, particularly for the REACH schools, on what the criteria are for junior transfer versus freshman admission?
On their websites? Yeah, and we can also talk to your counselor about that, and we can help you with that for specific schools, but when the reps come, it's also perfect questions to ask as well.
They can look on audience.
Yes, and you have-
Where with different schools, like what the average GPA was of kids that got in there.
That's gonna be for freshman acceptance. If you're looking for a junior transfer, that'll be something only that each school specifically will have. We want to know that.
Because our understanding is there's some schools where it's actually a big difference between
It
the
can be.
freshman admission and the junior.
All right, I think that is it, but we have time for questions.
Yes.
I can't see the clock.
Questions you guys have? A lot of information. Yes?
Yeah, when do the letters and the postcards stop coming to the house?
Never, right? Yeah,
you
it's
get-
a
that
lot.
happens because like when they're doing those practice tests, a lot of times they'll put down their addresses, their emails, and that's how the schools get that information.
I still get like 5 a day.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like an election cycle.
Yep.
Yeah, it is, because they want you to know about their school, and, you know, colleges are businesses too, right? So they're trying to get the word out and show you all their beautiful pictures and all that, so.
I have a question about non-remotes.
Yes.
For years now, I've been trying to have my student write in there his reflections on community service or other things, like to get him ready. Because at one point, somebody said use Naviance to record those things.
Right, with the resume on there.
Of course, he can't find it anywhere in there now. So I don't know where
It's
they all
there.
went. So just refresh my recollection, and maybe it will
it's-
help someone else.
Yeah, I mean, for them, once they log in, there's different tabs, and up the top it says About Me. You click on About Me, and the first thing in there is Resume, and that's where you would go to kind of record your hours, record different activities you could do. You can talk about what your leadership positions were in each of those, or you know what that all entailed. That's good for students if they can. Now, these are all great recommendations and suggestions. It's one thing for us to tell them, it's one thing for them to do it. But it is helpful because sometimes we have seniors coming in like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that freshman year. What did I do? And it's like, oh, come on.
Exactly.
But that's a natural thing they do. So if they can have that running resume, we always encourage them like, hey, you should go and update your resume. Here it is again when we have our meetings. Whether or not they do it,
There's also a journal feature, I believe, so he may have it under the journal feature, because that's just where they can free write, so he may have just put it up there to put notes. But along the lines of what Mr. Borchardt was saying, you know, we love that Naviance has those features, but still encourage your student, maybe they want to put it on a Word document, or, you know, write it down in a journal. Like, wherever they put it, it will be helpful to them come senior year.
But
you know,
Naviance seems like such a great.
Oh, it is, because everything's all in one place. Because everything's all in one place, but however they do it, as long as they're doing it is right, you know, so they have something to look back on, because it does get kind of fuzzy.
Exactly.
Because colleges ask for such
later.
specific information. How many weeks per year? How many hours per week? And what did you do? And it's just, I did so much, I don't remember.
Yeah.
a big chunk of our boot camp is going over the activities with them, and we get the questions like, so I did it like every day for 3 hours for 4 years, like what should I put? So we have to sit there and try to figure that out. But that's part of what we're doing in that boot camp too, is walking them through that whole process. You know, how should you describe that? Things like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Just for clarity with Naviance, I know you meet with all of them and talk to them about doing this. Do they only do it on their own time, or is there a time when you come meet them as a group and during some English period they actually are supposed to be sitting there? Because, you know, I noticed that there's a little tiny bit of activity, but there's all these surveys that haven't been filled out and all this stuff, and I feel like they're ignoring it. Or are they supposed to be doing it on their own time and I'm supposed to be on your own time?
A lot of it we'd like them to try to do on their own time. Now, we do go into their classroom. So for the sophomores, we went in and we had a presentation with them in the first semester. We went into every sophomore class. We had them log into Naviance. We had them do the college search. We had them add 2 to 3 schools at least to make sure that they knew how to use those features in there. That's something we have them physically do with us in there with the whole class. As freshmen, so second semester we go in and we'll meet with the freshmen. We'll show them how to log in. We'll show them some of the general features, where some of these surveys are that help them start thinking about college, and we walk them through that. Now, hopefully they retain that information. We know our kids, and a lot of times it goes in and out the other, but we're trying, and we're physically showing them. When they come in and meet with us, I think it's rare that we don't sit down and pull up Naviance with them, and show them again. And we do our best to get that repetition in. And we encourage them, hey, during the breaks, that's a great time to go in and explore a couple colleges. But they're suggestions, we're not there with them. So, yeah, we do try to do as much as we can with them, but a lot of it they could be doing on their own.
No, I just wanna make sure, so I don't hear, Mom, we do this in class. And then
Right.
I just wanna make sure I'm not.
Yeah, it's not like once a week or anything.
Yeah, gotcha.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for being here, and we'll stick around for a little bit if you guys have, specific questions or just anything that you need. We'll be here for a little bit longer. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you grab some more goodies and coffee. And we'll be advertising our next college and coffee. Oh yeah.
Flyers and pins.
Oh yes.
We just passed these out at Wellness Wednesday yesterday, and a lot of students engaged in our activities, so take some with you.
Our theme was spreading positivity, so you can come grab some stuff. And then our flyers up here for our parent workshop and our college tour are also up here.